Hi everybody, I'm here today with our lovely Alan. Hi Alan.
Hi, Karen.
Yeah, I just want to mention obviously we're making this video and Mickey's been gone nearly 8 weeks now. I'm still just as upset. I think I'm a tiny bit more contained now in this last couple of days because I just can't stop crying. It's just so sad that he's gone. For me it is. It means no difference probably to most people, but he was such a big part of my life. I mean, Alan talked to him a few times, didn't you, Alan?
Yeah,
Well, probably more than a few times, but yeah, we used to have our Saturday conversation with you, didn't we, and stuff.
yeah.
Just so sad. But you've had a few losses as well, haven't you? One of your friends died the other day or something, didn't it? Didn't he?
Yeah.
It's just happening all the time. Every time you, a person at work as well. One of the night porters, he got cancer. He was staying in a little house at the end of the car park. Well, he died the other day. His was cancer, but it's just so much of it. Just death everywhere, isn't it? And just people that you care about. It's so annoying. But I'll try not to talk about Mickey too much because obviously he can only handle so much. For me, it's disastrous, and he would love this talk today. He'd have been sitting here, probably having half a dozen things to say to Alan.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but anyway, so Alan, well, there's a couple of videos we want to talk about. There's another one. Remember the other one before? But we'll go back to that one because you sent me that one a few days ago. But you sent me this one yesterday. I noticed that this video went out 10 years ago. And he's docked. Oh, maybe it's because it's on part one, Alan.
Okay.
What it is me and Alan heard it twice. We've heard it. But maybe accidentally he just started listening to part one as well. So what does he say, Alan? About Jesus?
Which guy?
Well, it's in this video somewhere, but it must be on part one, and we've accidentally clicked on part one, heard that, and then gone back to part two or something. Because I've listened to the video twice, and I don't hear him say it. But I heard him say it, which is why I made the little video. In Spanish, what is Jesus?
Jesus.
Yeah, and I've got a little video. This guy's explaining how to say it. So it has the little apostrophe above the U, and it just means you pronounce the word differently. But that is quite incredible if he's Zeus, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what's your interpretation of Zeus then?
Well, it was that time of age, like Jesus is today. They just changed the names.
So why don't we know him as Zeus then? I didn't think they had, lots of people say he's Yahshua. They didn't have Y's in those days. So
Right.
what?
Jesus.
I mean, obviously, Claudio talks about him quite a lot, Zeus and Isis and things like that in his videos. And they obviously mean different things, don't they, now, when you look at it? So there is no Jesus, he's Zeus.
Christian prophet, but this is also a common name in many Spanish-speaking countries, including Spain. So how do you pronounce this? Jesus. Jesus. You do want to stress on the second syllable. That's what the accent on the U means here. Jesus. Pretty straightforward once you know. Jesus is Spanish for Jesus. And now you know.
Yeah.
That's crazy, though, isn't it, Alan?
It's the same with Serapis or Serapis, however you want to pronounce it. That was Alexander the Greek's general, one of his generals, Ptolemy the First, whatever. They called him Savior. That's where Savior comes from Serapis or Serapis, however you want to pronounce it.
I mean, his whole thing, I mean, obviously, he does say in this video, one of the first things that's going to go is religion. I mean, this was 10 years ago, and it's kind of true, because nobody goes to church anymore. But he talks about Adam and Eve, saying that they were perfect, but then Adam was so perfect, he had to die and leave the Garden of Eden, and that's why he ate the That's what all the apple was about. And God was the snake. And the thing is, even though it was Eve that ate the apple, it was Adam who left the garden, and to leave meant he died. Because he was he was perfect.
He also said that Eve was
the garden.
Was the female aspect of God. And he said that Eve was the garden. And so then God made himself into the aspect of the male figure, Adam, and was put into the garden.
Also in it, he talks about the void, and he talks about God doesn't know himself. God doesn't have an opinion of himself. God is only there because we made God.
Right.
And the void happens because God, he doesn't have a big person, what you call it, ego.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, Alan, help me out here, because I listened to it twice. But that
he couldn't see himself.
No, but we made God. We are God.
Right.
We are the gods.
Right. Yep.
But we had a talk about this the other day, didn't we, Alan? I'm going to put a few bits of video in here to break it up, because obviously we're just looking at this, and I'm going to play a little bit of his video. But we are the fallen gods, aren't we? That's what we said we were. That's what we felt. Maybe that's what it was all about. We are the fallen gods.
Well, what I got out of that for being fallen is when man took on the legal fiction.
Oh, well, that's the British Empire then, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, that's when maritime law came. Well, it's obviously the Romans turned it into all that as well, and then turned into the churches.
Yeah.
They just, what it is it's a bit like, I just remember it was on the news, and they said that the Queen didn't own Buckingham. This is a few years ago, obviously, because she's dead now, isn't she? Well, whenever she died. But the Queen didn't own Buckingham Palace anymore, but the monarchy did, and she's the monarchy. So nothing had really changed. It was just a legal word. And this is what they've done with things. They've just changed the wording, and everybody thinks it's something new, but it isn't. It's the same thing. And this is probably why we can't work history out, because nothing's actually changed. Just the words did, and there's no history to that. They just obviously keep changing things, like they did with what happened to us a few years ago. Change things. They don't say this is what we're going to do. It's just changed. Something like that. What do you reckon, Alan?
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy if we are the fallen angels after all. And also, when he's talking, he doesn't say Eve is Adam's wife either.
He said that when we took on this body, that's a defilement and makes us fallen.
Ah, yeah, because you've got to really listen to every word that's said, because when you're making a sentence, every word means something. But if you're not listening, you don't hear half the words, so you don't know what was said.
Every letter.
Yeah.
Every letter has a meaning. Every letter is a symbol.
Yeah. That's why we make spells. With words, isn't it? And he also said, he never says that Eve is his wife either.
No.
Say Jesus in Spanish. Jesus. Jesus, that's right. Jesus. Son of God.
The beauty of what we are speaking about in the higher metaphysics as God perfecting itself in man. God did not create man. The concept God did not create man. Man created God.
That's right.
And when you understand that man is the creator of God, then you understand that man is God.
So what that's saying there is that we created God.
The concept.
The concept. What's a concept, God or God? What's the difference?
Well, concept is just a theory of something.
He said concept God.
Yeah.
What does he mean then? What's he trying to say, Alan?
It's a fiction.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It's like a leprechaun. They don't exist. Outside of man's mind, God don't exist.
So what does that mean if we've made God? There is no God.
No. We didn't make them like form them or create them or manufacture them. Well, we just thought of it. He's a thought. Is what we were before we are.
Right. Okay then, well, the journey's never easy, isn't it? It's a roller coaster ride, so let's carry on with the roller coaster.
Okay.
Because all concepts that we could ever perceive of God is still flawed. We are still perfecting our perceptual antenna so that we become higher and higher, so that we perceive more and more of that which we perceive as God. But understand that God could not perceive of itself, because if it is all knowledge, it could never know itself. It could just only be.
So the void, Alan.
It was when God, before he became Adam and Eve.
Oh, that's the void. Yeah, but Adam and Eve, he says, is the polarity, is the negative, positive, feminine, male. So that's what was brought in with the polarity of it.
Yep.
But you need a man and a woman to procreate, don't you?
Yeah.
But the thing is, he's saying that God didn't know who he was. Sounds like a computer program, doesn't it? It's like that Dave thing on that space film in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think? It's all a bit weird. How could God not know who he was, but actually, no, we created God? What, without us, there's no God?
Well, when they're speaking of God, I think they're speaking that it was us.
Because we are God. There is no God.
There was only one mind, and now it's split up to all of us.
Oh, right. And that's, what did he say it was? What God was it? There was a different God. I've just gone out of my brain now. Hang on. So there's two gods now. There's God and there's conceptual God.
Huh.
I'm not sure what that means either, but you know, we're trying to listen word to word what he says, because everything's always code, isn't it? In the end, sometimes you just don't do it. You listen to something, it goes in one ear and out the rest, but we're listening to this. But anyway, so we've got two gods now.
Well, that's like in Genesis 1 and Genesis 2. In Genesis 1, you have El. And in Genesis 2, you got Elohim. Plural. Many.
Right. Is that the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve?
Yeah. That's the plural. Many.
Well, except I think Eve's his daughter, but how does she just... I'm making a woman, and then she's immediately made into a woman, and she can have children right in front of you. She's not even a baby or a child. She's immediately to a woman. I think that's crazy.
By taking the rib from Adam, the fallen angels now were able to find a way to procreate.
Well, it sounds to me like Adam let everybody down and he had to leave the garden because he wasn't perfect anymore. It wasn't that he was perfect and his life had finished. He wasn't perfect.
No, he wasn't perfect because he got cut. They spliced, they added RNA to DNA. Right. So that the fallen angels could bring in their fallen children.
It sounds like another race, because I told you when I looked at pictures in the 1800s, there wasn't anybody with blonde hair, and then blonde dyes turned up. But by the Second World War, everybody was blonde in places like Sweden, all these Nordic places. The people were blonde. They were naturally blonde now, but they weren't in the 1800s. They were dark-haired. And when you look up pictures, you can see they're all dark-haired. But now you look up pictures, everybody's blonde. So where did the blondes come from?
Well, I don't know.
They're quite recent.
There's a theory about Noah when he was born. He was an albino with blonde hair.
Yeah, and they've said that about Jesus as well, that he was an albino. He was albino.
Right.
Who knows? He was definitely, if Mary's Turkish, then he was half Turkish. He would have been dark.
Well, I thought they were Hebrew.
She was Turkish. We can never agree on anything, can we? Because everything is different how you've learned it and stuff.
What is Turkish?
Turkey.
Was there turkey back in them days?
Well, they have a lot of
I thought they were all Israelites. I thought they were all Hebrews.
Palestine and Israel have changed, because it was just Palestine and then Israel's come in and taken over.
And we don't even know about history because it's his story and it's all fake.
Yeah, it's all just a weavy thing to make you maybe believe that
the
there's
same
an
way
afterlife.
with Alexander the Great.
Was it to make you believe there was an afterlife? Because even the Romans, they all had gods and they were praying to these gods. And look at the Egypt. Look how the pharaohs were buried. It was all the underworld.
Yeah.
It's a bit crazy, really.
These so-called judges that are in the courtrooms, they're doing arbitrary law of the sea. They're the judge of the underworld, of the dead. There's no common law courts, no common law judges. It's all the world of the dead.
Yeah, which we're registered in.
Yeah.
Should we carry on with the video? Because we haven't really got the answers. We're just questioning some of it, aren't we?
So what it did was it began to detract or separate from itself, and as it separated from itself, it created a void. And that's what they speak about in the Bible. As God separated from itself, the void that they talk about in the beginning, that's the beginning. The beginning happened when God separated from itself in its attempt to know itself. You want to deal with deep metaphysics? Then we could go into that. To explain it the way you do, verbatim, and then try to put limited intelligence to the words, you do yourself a disservice. You do the work a disservice that your ancestors left for you. So the separation of God from itself to know itself ended up being polarity, which is why we have the masculine and feminine principle. That separation to create the void, that void that we are feeling with one another when a man needs a woman and a woman just needs that man, that's the void. In the beginning, God created heavens and earth, and the earth was without form, and everything was void. Yes, there was a void. That void was when the Most High pulled away from itself to know itself. Because being all of itself, it could only know itself. It could never know itself. It could only be.
I am that I am is Adam. But then we were just talking before we got the video on about Adam.
Letter is add, so you're adding something. Just like Scott McQuaid said, when they took the rib from Adam, they didn't really take his rib, they're just adding RNA to DNA.
And what does that mean? That's not making Eve, is it? That's doing something to Adam.
Yeah. Because Adam means male and female. But that was for the fallen angels so that they could procreate and bring their children in.
Especially as they don't really explain that Adam had been married, and I think she must have died or something to Lilith, or Lilith was still alive. They were divorced.
Well, that story's not in the Bible about Lilith.
So what were they adding on to Adam then?
RNA.
Which is for? Explain to everybody.
Well, that's adding to the DNA so that the fallen angels could procreate and bring in their fallen children.
No.
Because it says, let us go down and make man in our image.
Also, just like the pictures, they have Eve with almost blonde hair all the time. She's got much lighter hair than Adam. So that's crazy. I was just talking about that. Should we carry on then? Yeah?
Well, it's all about the same with why there's so many different blood types, where they all come from.
Yeah, I'm sure that different blood types might affect differently to medications as well.
And with this other friend of mine, OT, he says about X and Y chromosomes that man came before female.
Maybe it's the other way around. Maybe Eve's the man and Adam's the girl.
I don't know. Because OT said he'd give anybody $1 million if they can give him an answer to that XY chromosome.
Well, one makes one and one makes the other, doesn't it?
I don't know. What came first? The man or the woman?
It is crazy, isn't it? Because all the rest of the sperm at the time that you're created could have been female and you're the only male.
Well, everyone's a female at first. But it evolves either into one or stays female.
And that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. And what decides that?
The XY, doesn't it? Yeah. So we've just got more questions, really, haven't we? Let's go on to the next bit, Alan.
In your book in Exodus, you saw that Moses was spoken to, and he said he was spoken to by an entity called that said it was I am that I am. And then again he turned to be I am. So I am that I am speaks to a static perfection. No movement. When you say I am, or I am that will be, that's that static perfection in movement. And I am that will be became Adam. And Adam left the garden, or was kicked out of the garden. He had to be kicked out of the garden, because perfection is death. That's why the Most High creates, in order to perfect itself. Anything that's totally perfect dies of its own volition, because there's nothing to do. Adam had to be kicked out of perfection. They tell you that the Garden of Eden was all perfect. Why was it all perfect? What happened in the Garden of Eden that changed the perfection?
So what about that then? The serpent is God, and he's perfect too. But if he's telling them to eat the apple, why is God doing that?
And if everything was perfect in the garden, then why wasn't the tree of knowledge perfect too?
Why was there one thing that wasn't?
The one thing that the tree of life was not, they were not supposed to eat that.
Is it because they had then more knowledge than God? If we made God, then they would have more knowledge than God.
Yep.
Crazy or what, though? It's just all crazy, isn't it? Isn't it, Alan? Come on.
You'd have a world of gods, and they'd be all at war at each other.
Isn't that what's happening today?
Yeah.
Well, some of it's man-made, isn't it? They've got to make the wars. They've got to make you think we're killing each other off all over the place when we're not. But, yeah. Should we carry on?
Okay.
Perfection. If it was all perfect, then anything existing in the garden would be perfect. Who was the serpent? If the serpent perfect, then obviously the serpent was also perfect, because nothing was allowed in the garden that was not perfect. Everything was perfect in the garden. And they say except the serpent. But the serpent was God. The serpent was an aspect of God communicating to itself through Adam. And it said, it's time to leave. You must eat of the fruit.
Desiring this knowledge, The woman eats the forbidden fruit and gives the same to the man who eats it. They become aware of their nakedness and the fig leaf clothes and hide themselves when God approaches. So he says when Adam ate the apple. He doesn't mention Eve. What's your thoughts on that, Alan?
I don't know.
Well, we're adding this bit in, but he never said Eve ate it. He said Adam ate it, but the computer and everything else says that Eve ate it first and then gave it to Adam. You got any answers then? Nothing?
Well, maybe Eve was the forbidden fruit.
Did God want Adam to eat the apple? Let's have a look. The serpent, the devil, which is him, persuaded Adam that eating the apple would be of his benefit. But if he is the serpent, he's not the devil then, is he? But in here the serpent is the devil. So that's all crazy, isn't it? They can't even get that right. It says, what fruit is the tree of knowledge? Let's just have a look. They don't say what it is. Oh, the apple.
Didn't I send you that video on Amanita mushroom as...
Yeah, this is what you're going to say, isn't it? You think that...
the forbidden fruit.
Is the forbidden fruit. So why would they be eating that then?
It's the knowledge of good and evil. And you can't be in the garden if you know good and evil. It's time you leave.
So you reckon it's not an apple, you reckon it was a mushroom?
No, that's the sin. To have this knowledge. But that's the reason why we came here.
Well, we haven't got very far, have we, really? The Romans are here. But, so you think it's a mushroom, then?
Yeah, the Amanita.
And why do you think that, Alan?
Well, the word Amanita, etymology of the word, means God within.
Oh, right, I see. Okay, then we're just adding this to the video, aren't we?
Of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Good and evil meant polarity had to be created. And in the polarity did God begin to reflect and see itself in the mirror of its own creation. And then Adam was kicked out of the garden, but Eve stayed. Read your Bible. If Eve stayed, that meant that Eve was the beginning of the perfection. Eve was the garden.
What do you reckon he means by that, Alan? Eve
I don't
was the
know.
garden and she was perfected and Adam was kicked out, but she made him eat the apple.
Well, she didn't make him. She
She ate the apple and she gave it to him and he ate it.
and he said since she took the apple, he didn't want her being alone doing that, so he did it along with her. He fell along with her.
Well, he says that Eve stays.
I don't know where he gets that from.
Right, well, we'll listen to a bit more of the video now, but I don't think he talks about it. He just says Eve stays.
Yeah.
Can we say that again?
What was that again?
You don't know where he gets it from.
Yeah, I don't know where he gets that from. Eve stayed in the garden. And Eve was the garden.
And Adam was the add-on. Crazy.
So understand that what you read and what you're studying has a greater depth of knowledge and calculated wisdom seated within, buried within, laying comatose within. That is the Osirian body that is wrapped up in all of the wrappings, and they do the ritual to bring forth the body of Osiris again. That is why Isis, who is the symbol of knowledge, has to raise her husband Isis from the death, because Osiris is wisdom. Knowledge without wisdom is lost. She roams the countryside. Knowledge is how do you say? It defeats itself, its own reason to be, without wisdom. So understand that the feminine principle is the vessel of knowledge. She is the one. That's why this age is a female age. The computer age is a female age, because it's.
So what he says in this was that we've been female ego, now we're a male ego, then we've been another female ego, and we're back male ego. Well, at the moment we're in a female thing, he says, with computers and everything. Do you think it's female ego at the moment? Because I don't.
No. Well.
Oh, but he is talking 10 years ago.
But they do say that the Holy Spirit was feminine.
Well, maybe God was a female. Or is a female. Oh, I don't know. I don't even quite understand that, because he's saying there isn't a God. Really. We've made God. And because we get, and also, if you think that the tree of knowledge was if it was the mushrooms rather than an apple, they don't want you getting much more knowledge. I mean, how much more knowledgeable can you be? I mean, they probably just wanted us planting fruit and crops and with the animals and stuff like that. But in a way, we are starting to get more educated, and not by them, by ourselves.
If everybody realized that there was no God, there wouldn't be no religion.
Or that we make God. So the only reason God is here is because the people made him. But that's crazy, because he's not in this world. He's in the spirit world. So what does that mean? He doesn't do anything here, does he? All the bad things happen and freedom of choice and all that. You don't really see him here. Sometimes there's miracles. I don't know. It's all a bit crazy, really. Knowledge, though. And we're becoming more knowledgeable. We're doing it ourselves. You're always looking at videos, aren't you, Alan?
Yeah.
Always.
Even when I'm sleeping.
Mickey was another one. He was always looking at videos, always wanting that extra bit.
I go to sleep at night listening to a video.
Golly, you're really wired in then, aren't you?
I was watching Kent Hovind and Aaron Ra doing a debate on creatism and evolutionism. And in my dream, when Kent Hovind was talking about his creationism, all I could say in my dream was, "Shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up." And I woke up saying, "Shut the fuck up."
Oh, Alan. I don't dream at all anymore. I used to. I told you about that. I don't anymore. Yeah. When I conk out, I conk out. One night I was talking to Mickey and I said I was really tired. And he said I fell asleep getting out of bed to go to the toilet. I had my legs out, the blanket off. He was saying something to me and I just fell asleep right in front of him. But I don't remember my dreams. I wish I did, because I could meet Mickey there at the moment. But, yeah, should we carry on, Alan?
Okay.
All about gathering knowledge and information. That's what it is, gather information. The feminine principle is the gathering of information. Tincturing of that information into wisdom is the masculine principle along with that, to all the knowledge that the females herself brings in. And she's a vessel that is necessarily part of the scheme of the knowledge-wisdom circuitry that is missing inside of our own genetics, or is being systematically bred out of our children today in the education system. And this amalgamation of gender duties that has our sisters doing things outside of the structure of.
Well, this video was made in 2012, and he was right about that, because look what they've done to us now. Everything, you can't be the sex you are, you've got to be another sex as well as the sex you are, sort of thing. Well, they're making you unhappy with who you are, what sex you are. He's talking about it there in 2012, and it happened. Didn't it, Alan? Yeah, anyway, we're just adding that bit into the video. We're moving on.
their own bodies. We have to put sisters in war gear now because we have to fight for our independence. But that's not their purpose. The sister's purpose is to teach and raise a nation. And she should be kept stress-free. Because if you have babies coming through a woman who's stressed, what kind of baby are you creating in there? You see. And the first thing that's going to go is religion.
Well, he's right about that, isn't it? Obviously, they just want all the women stressed, and then they're giving birth to stressed babies. They tried to do it with drugs, haven't they? Or that woman's on drugs, so the baby's stressed out in there. So they want you stressed. And then he said the first thing that's going to go is religion. And he's kind of right about that as well, isn't he? And religion's kind of gone now. For a lot of people, it has.
Once you eat amanita mushroom, you don't need religion no more.
Yeah, you know what? As I said, if the medium said that Jesus came here to be more, so we were more like him, and the churches say you can't be anything like him. So that's all crazy, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So why do we call it Christ's consciousness? It isn't though, is it? It's Jesus consciousness, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, he's kind of talking about science. He's talking about DNA. He's talking about other things as well. I don't know if people are listening. It sounds like we're just one big experiment, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that, Alan? I think we're a big experiment in an open-air boot camp. There's too many of us to watch completely. And like we said, they couldn't find, when you rang up, there's 2 police stations close to you, couldn't find. But they got us believing that they could just get a gun aimed at your house almost. Will burn you from the inside out. But again, fear stops people doing anything, doesn't it? Because if you realise they were just composite cartoons on a computer and there wasn't really anybody running us, just the cartoons. Yeah. Should we carry on then?
Okay.
And when you have made a generation of people to push that kind of nonsense, then the conflict begins to happen where our sisters believe that. That's and right. Then it becomes a thing where it's an adversarial role that they play to try to gain respect back through that kind of teaching. They have to fight the people who hold that kind of nonsense in place, and thus we have this marginalization of effort into what the women are going to think about as a feminization. That's why the feminists were so easily swayed our sisters into that particular thought process.
So that's quite incredible in itself, because in here he's saying that God is male and God is female. So you don't hear that very often, do you, Ellen?
No.
Not together. Although people will say, no, God's a female, and others will say, no, God's more man. But he's saying without, it's both of them together. Yeah. And what was the other bit he said? Hang on, I've got to remember what he said. Hang on. But he's right about that, though, isn't he? About egos. I mean, that's the damn of the thing, is very egotistical people, narcissistical people. And, unfortunately, you know, that when you know yourself as a person and the rest of it, you're a lot less egotistical. And those that don't know or are scared or whatever it is, they're much more egotistical. So
right.
When you know yourself more, there's less ego. You feel you're more of a one with other people like you. There's no ego. We don't talk about ego, do we? We're not going, hey, I don't like you because you're too egotistical. It's not about that. Only people who are very unsure of themselves pick up on the egotistical things. Or are rude, aren't they?
Yeah.
Okay, next bit. Next bit, Alan.
And then it changes again, where it says, okay, man is God. And it's going to change back again. And we're going to go dancing back and forth until we find out that both are God.
That's right.
And that each one is a principle of God manifested. And when we understand God the Father and God the Mother, then we understand God the child. But we are too busy in the kind of egotistical one-upsmanship that has been propagated by this Western philosophical dynamic, that somehow a cult of personality is built around knowledge. And that's what's happening in the underground. And I'm saddened to see that they would take the information, such as the ones that are staying raw, real, and has no bullshit attached to it, that we're going to try to, make a cult of personality out of it. I don't want to be made into a personality figure. That loses the concept. Then the personality becomes the issue rather than the knowledge. And that's not what my head has been about. That's why in the 27 years that I've been doing this, I have not sought any following. It loses the purpose. I raise each and every one up to understand that I am not any Messiah. Don't look at me as a Messiah or anyone. We represent a collective Messiah that must be raised at the same time. And I say that you ain't gonna get none of these Negroes to do a damn thing. Anytime revolution happens, it's gonna happen when all the people say it's time. Because the people we're gonna raise up, and it's the people gonna tell you when they're ready to be led.
That's right.
You see, because we can go to the people, and brother said to me, well, why wouldn't you want to go and speak to the people about all the knowledge you have? I said, I will speak to the few, because it's the few that's fucking up the planet, not the majority of the people. It's the few that's running everything. So the few can change everything. And all we need is 1/10 of this planet thinking along those lines, and we could circumvent everything that was done on this planet to the detriment.
This bit of the video is all to do with the people rising up. We have to do it ourselves. That's what he's saying. This was 2012, Alan.
Yeah.
What do you reckon to that? But I suppose we are really, aren't we? Because we're talking, educating ourselves. We're not watching YouTube. Well, we're not on the TV being blinded by all that crap in the news. A lot of people don't watch the news or know that it's not real. So we're starting to, we're doing what he says, but do you think the world would stop buying all their goods?
I don't know.
What's your thoughts on that when he says things like that? We have to rise up.
Yeah, but we're not all going to rise up at once.
What, because other people aren't as awake or whatever?
Yeah, some don't want to wake up.
No, some like it exactly the way it is.
Yeah.
And even they've got this very materialistic world here, they don't want you upsetting the apple cart on their materialistic world.
No, I had a Christian lady one time. She told me she don't want to know. She's happy in what she was believing in.
Yeah. The thing is, we were happy in what we were believing in, and then more information comes, and more and more and more, and by the end of it, you're questioning everything, and you look at things differently. I think that's a good thing. I quite like this guy, don't you? You said you felt he was quite intelligent, didn't you?
Yeah.
Quite an intelligent bloke. He's still going though, isn't he? You said he was on with Santos.
Uh-huh.
Well, that's good.
No, Bo Sanchez.
Oh, Bro Sanchez. Okay, that's still good. Should we carry on, Alan? Last bit of the video?
Mm-hmm.
So if we want to teach the small group of people who are ready to listen and to learn, and with them, they become more dangerous, because then it's an undercover thing. It begins to seed the underground, the young people. A revolution before its time, that's when our leaders get picked off.
That's right.
A true leader knows what to do with the hellstorm that comes into place. Because you know a hellstorm's coming. But the true leader will now know what that energy is, and then take that energy and convert it into power. But until that time, now what you do is you stay in preparation to power. But until that time, until the people are ready to rise up, ain't shit gonna be done. So right now what you do is you stay in preparatory mode. You keep preparing the people. Keep telling them what is to be expected, how to survive, what to do, how to say. Keep preparing that. Keep going back and getting your seeds, take them out to schools, teach them yourself, whatever it is. If we all take our children home, where are they going to put us all? They all going to lock us all up?
Well, he's right that they couldn't put us all in prison, but they put us in prison in our own houses for nearly 3 years. So they did it a different way, didn't they, Alan?
Well, we're prisoners in our body also.
Mm. You think you can never see back of your head or anything, can you?
No.
Yeah, prisoner in your own body. Yeah. But they definitely managed to lock us in our own houses. Yeah, so we'll carry on because we've just got the last couple of minutes now.
They ain't gonna lock us all up because they ain't got no room.
Same way if we all was to stop working. Stop spending money in restaurants and all of that.
Exactly.
That too.
That's
I
it.
saw that too.
It's time to go.
And now the mayor is calling them all together and telling them, they call them economic terrorists.
Economic terrorists. Now no longer are you boycotting.
Right.
You know, for a reason. You are economic terrorists. Now the idea is that the newspaper will give that title in order to seed it to the masses.
Right.
So that when you understand the word terrorist is attached to your activities, it now gives the government a chance to move on you based upon that terminology. Now that falls under the Homeland Security Act. It now takes you down under the terrorist bill, all of that.
Well, there wasn't really much of a argument against being locked down and that, and they managed to do that for 3 years, so it didn't quite happen the way he thought. But when there are things wrong, like we know there's rioting in France and in Italy, they're not putting it on the main television, so we don't see they might show you 30 seconds of it, but they don't home in on those kind of things. They just home in on lots of the other things which aren't real instead. Do you find that, Alan? Because we're not rising up, are we? This is 10 years ago we made this video.
Right?
Or is it that when it comes to it, people get too comfortable in their materialistic world? I don't know.
Cowards.
Sorry?
They're cowards.
Well, I'm almost deleted nearly every day off YouTube. There's something they're doing to my channel, so they obviously don't like something I'm doing. But when you think that they promote people who break into people's houses and all that is breaking and entering, and you're on other people's property and they're promoting that, and there's thousands of videos of that, and they won't put the software in to take the deep fakes out so that we're not watching them. YouTube is just full of deep fakes which are lies. Who's the one doing the damage, me or them? All I'm doing is showing you what's on YouTube most of the time, or what's being put to us. And it just doesn't look right. And then you hit things like this, because obviously we don't necessarily talk about all these things. But I found him very interesting, so thanks for giving me the video of him. Alan? You've got any more comments then as we've got to the end of this bit on him?
No.
No, you've said enough about him now.
Yep.
Okay, thanks for that.
That brings you up underneath that. So anybody propagating you stopping the flow of money to these bastards, now they're going to be a terrorist. So I said, okay, I'm a terrorist then if that's the case, because I'm saying everybody stay home.
That's right.
Right.
Shut down your lights, your TVs, light your candles, stop eating for a week or two, because you can do it. Man, your Jesus stopped eating for 40 damn days. You stop eating for 40 days and just sip some water, drink your own urine, you shut this bastard down in about a month. A month they'll come to you on their knees, asking you what can they give you.
That's right. That's real.
So in the beginning stages it's hard, but all change is with pain. But a lot of people, they want to be too comfortable. The real revolutionary isn't out there as yet. But they're raising up in the ranks. They're coming soon. Because these kids ain't taking their shit no more. And thanks to the brothers like yourselves who's out there disseminating the information, making sure all the young brothers and sisters in the places that you all are getting that information, a hellstorm is coming.
Right.
And I don't want to be around when these kids, if you've been bullshitting these children this long,
That's right.
and you've been bullshitting these people in the churches, in the school systems, I don't want to be around. I don't want to be, listen, when these kids, why the fuck you fucked up my generation? They're not going to look at me, because I've been doing my damnedest to show them what the shit was. They're coming after your ass for lying to them. So I don't want to be in the way. And when they're at it, I'm stepping right out the way. I'm going to say, there they are. That's them. You understand?
That's right.
I'm just going to point you out.
Yeah, Adam and Eve. So I'm going to say something and then Alan's going to say something. I always struggled. I mean, when they show you Adam, he's quite young. But he wasn't. He'd already been married and had children. and his children were probably the same age as Eve. And then they say that Eve came from a rib in his body. But then, if that happened, she would have to be his daughter because she's part of him. She isn't separate. She's not. She's part of Adam. So then that means she's his daughter. But Alan, in this whole story about the ribs, it's as if they are so far advanced, they've just forgotten to give us those details. Tell me what your feeling about the rib is.
Ribonucleitis, or whatever, I can't pronounce the word, but in that video with Scott McQuaid, he gets into it pretty deep about taking the rib of Adam, which is not taking a rib, but taking RNA and adding DNA so that the fallen angels can procreate.
So what does that mean Eve is then? She is a fallen angel then?
Some kind of a hybrid?
Yeah, we did these talks with Nigel. Of course, there's another person who died of a heart attack about a year ago. He did in China. But remember, we did those about the fact that there obviously are the numpties, then you've got those, and then you've got the hybrids, and we are the hybrids. And the hybrids are different. Is that the whole point of making Eve then? She just is different.
I'm not.
I just don't get the I think it's a parable. You
Right.
know, if the whole book is about, if every word and every letter means something, you know, you almost need another book to work out every letter, and you need the original, not the ones that have come afterwards. And then it gets a bit complicated when every word means something. So obviously Eve and all these people are not real. They're allegory. Remember we did a hangout when we found, how many times did the Bible say it was allegory?
Yeah, I'm not sure how many times.
5.
5?
5 times the Bible says it's allegory, which means it's not real. So that's crazy in itself, because you know people don't seem to see that bit, do they? They don't see that the Bible says allegory, because obviously nobody's read the Bible. So it's all crazy, isn't it? I mean, when you think about it, what are we talking about? I mean, we're talking about science here, aren't we? Instead, we're not talking about people.
Biology.
Yeah, biology. We're not talking about people, really.
It says in Genesis 2 that Adam was a tree.
The tree with the apples.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, that's quite incredible in itself, because I just, from very young, I just could never believe that Adam would be his wife and come from his rib. I just didn't get that. But he does say in there that everything in the garden is perfect. And Adam had finished what he was doing. He was perfect and he needed to go. So that, in the guy says in the video, that's death.
Well, yeah, he said that everything in the garden was perfect. So the serpent had to be perfect also. It was just an aspect of God.
He was, yeah, the snake was God as well.
Right.
So it's a bit crazy when you think what God is, because why would God be doing all that to kill Adam off and then make it the way it was? And then bring in, and also, but Adam and Eve are the duality, isn't it? The duality of everything. Before that, there was just a void, and then there's duality. He said that as well, didn't he?
Yeah, but he also said that Adam left the garden, but Eve stayed in the garden.
Yeah, so what does that mean then?
I don't know.
If she was supposed to be his wife, why would she stay? And in the Bible, it never says Adam goes, does it? I don't remember.
Well, he said that Eve was the garden.
Oh yes, of course, yes, she was the garden. Yeah, so it gets more complicated, doesn't it? Is there anything else you want to say on that? Because obviously you sent me the video because you said you liked it. So what did you actually like about it? The fact that he was explaining something different?
Yeah. He has a different aspect about it.
He's not, I don't think he's overly religious, is he, this guy?
Phil Valentine?
The guy made the guy being interviewed.
Yeah, Phil Valentine. He's a ghetto scholar.
Do you know what I liked at the end of the video, though? I mean, if we could all do it, he said, what you need to do is, to change anything, is to turn off the electric, turn off the heating, and don't buy the food for a week or two, everybody. And then they'd be on their knees to us, asking us what we wanted. But it kind of happened, but for the wrong reasons a few years ago when we couldn't go. So they did it to us. Didn't they, almost, except for food?
Yeah, they did.
But we need to do it to them. But the video was made 10 years ago, so kind of what he's talking about is kind of happening because no one goes to churches anymore. But anyway, is there anything else you want to say on that? Because we thought that was interesting. So that covered the fallen angel, covered the DNA, covered, I just don't think Eve was his wife at all. And Adam would have been much older than her. So that's all crazy. Always have him as a young man.
Well, it's kind of funny that you have Genesis chapter 1 and then you have Genesis chapter 2. You got two creation stories. In chapter 1, he made man, whatever, and everything was good. But then in chapter 2, it says, "Let us go down and create man," and everything was good, but man.
So this is hell then, Alan?
Yeah.
This is hell? Because, or purgatory.
Because,
he talks about that guy talks about purgatory as well.
Yeah, because Adam had to leave the garden, which was heaven.
So Eve's in heaven.
Yeah.
So where are we? We're not in the garden, are we?
No.
And also, he talked about the fact that things were masculine, then feminine, masculine, and now they're back feminine. He reckoned Computer World was a feminine version. I don't. I think it's very masculine right now.
And in chapter 1, when he says Adam refers to male and female.
Yeah. Well, it's all crazy, isn't it? Because we think we know everything and we don't know anything.
Right.
And then why, I mean, if you look in the background of the picture here, wow, of Adam and Eve, there's houses. How could there be houses? But there's houses in the background of the picture. But I just really struggle that she could be his wife. She'd have to be his daughter, if anything. And she wouldn't be an adult, would she? She'd be a child. How can you make an adult? And then we've talked about this before, haven't we, Alan? That there's Adam and Eve. So who made them, or who made the? Obviously, they, we can make the babies, but who made them to make the babies?
Mm-hmm.
But that's crazy in itself, isn't it? That's like, who came first, the egg or the chicken?
Right.
And then who made the chicken?
It's like, why did the chicken cross the road? And they say, well, get to the other side. Well, what if there ain't no road? Then the chicken don't need to cross it.
Do you find this stuff answers anything for you, or does it give you more questions?
More questions. Because it never tells you exactly how everything came to be, except in an allegory parable. It's like they don't really know themselves, they're just guessing.
Well, supposedly, one of the apostles was Mary Magdalene, so it's all a bit crazy. And then someone kept the books for a few hundred years before it turned into a Bible, so that's all strange in itself, isn't it? The whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, the whole Bible was plagiarized from thousands of years before that. From the Anunnaki. From the Sumerian.
I must admit, I watched a video on that. It might have even come from you, and I might have sent it to you, or you sent it to me. But when they look at the Anunnaki, everything they talk about in the Anunnaki is like the Bible.
Right.
That's what you were going to say, isn't it? It was you. You sent me that one as well.
Yeah, because Anunnaki have the creation story also.
The guy worked it out, didn't he? Oh, that's from that video that we want to go to in a minute. When he's working out that says that about the Anunnaki, that says that about that in the Bible, and it all marries up with the Bible.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you sent me that. Should we go to the next bit then, Alan?
Okay.
Right, so we've done that bit. And now we need to go back to Facebook and we need that link that you sent me, the first one. But that's where we were talking about fallen angels and stuff, so we'll have to... Oh, gosh, I'm not... Yeah, this is the video that Alan sent me the other day. This is where we were talking about the fallen angels, even Eve and, you know, being the daughter, or it's science. And, yeah, carry on, Alan. So what's this? It says, the feto-maternal bundle of rights is the social contract. Listen carefully. We're listening. Alan.
Huh.
Where you gone? Yeah. We're listening. We're listening to you. So what have you got to say about this one?
Well, play a little bit of it so I can refresh my memory.
Hang on, everybody. So I've just had to refresh Alan's mind. And basically, it's quite a good word to start with, isn't it, Alan? F-U-C-K. Come on, Alan. Because he obviously explains that, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So,
When he says, do you mind if I swear? Well, to swear, like a swearing oath, that's a curse.
mm. So what does the word mean then? It's a good word, isn't it, actually?
Swear? Or
No.
fuck?
Yeah, that one. It's a good word. It's just been told wrong.
Right.
Go on, explain that one.
What, the F-U-C-K?
Yeah, go on then.
Well, it means many different things, you know.
Yeah. Yes, Alan. We know what that one, the first one, is. Well, one's a swear word, then we know what the second word is because of the word. Yeah, go on then.
It's, well, you can, like, if you don't like that, you can just fuck it.
Right.
Now, I don't mean literally,
So how does that get into here then?
I don't know. It's like the grandest word that's ever been created because it fits with anything.
Yeah, but you have one as well, don't you? What's a word that is almost the same, but you don't say that word? You say, oh, what's it? Shoot. You could say shoot instead.
Yeah.
That's the same. That means the same thing, really. Just American. Shoot.
Uh-huh.
So you could put that word in. Why did he pick that? I don't understand that. It's just that was at the beginning of a message. Oh, just very quickly, I messaged John Chrysophilos. You know, he's John the Morgile, and he said, I'm just trying to survive. I haven't spoken to him in ages. So I said, what happened with Mickey? And he said, oh, Karen, I'm sorry to hear that. Life's so short, right? I always say we're never guaranteed tomorrow. Sad to say, but I'll be honest, thank God we don't have to suffer the world forever. It's about right, isn't it? There's his message. Oh, I'll message him back in a little bit. Should we carry on the video a bit, or can you remember a bit more now?
You can play some more if you want.
Yeah, but it's 2 hours and 41 minutes long, Alan. No, 1 second. We'll just hear a little bit more. Sorry, just adding to that bit. It's an old farmer's term to imply or add. Can you imagine you're on the farm and you're going, I'm just going to fuck it. And you're going, it means a job.
Right.
How crazy is that?
Yeah, it's like when something's not going right, you just got to have a word to say.
I'm going to add that bit into the video so people can just hear him say that. Right, I'm going to stop it here to remind me. You can...
Yeah, that word you can use for good or you can use for bad. Like if something's going good, you can use the word fuck yeah or whatever. If it's going bad, you can say fuck no.
I think of it more as I'm a pissed off word, to be honest.
Yeah.
But imagine it on the farm using it and they think it's a normal word to use to do something. How crazy is that? Okay, we're going to put the video back on. Sorry, there's probably masses. We're only on 1 minute 13. He said that you use their language, so you imprison yourself. But that's about right, isn't it? Because you've had something that you tried to do differently, didn't you, Alan, by stepping out of the system, but it didn't. It was very hard not to be in the system, was it? You couldn't get out of the system to do it.
They're not going to allow you to.
Yeah, they just want you taking the what is it? The maritime law.
Yeah, they want you to be that legal fiction.
Yeah, you've got to be Mister with a capital M. Mrs. with a capital M in the fiction. Because then we're a dead entity. But don't you think that's really crazy that if a birth certificate is for docking a ship and it means you're dead before you've even had a life, maybe this is hell then?
Yeah.
Because we're dead.
Yeah.
Really? Sort of. I don't know how, because my heart is beating at the moment, so I'd say I was alive, but that means that if we're the whole thing with maritime law and it's not a birth certificate, it's a death certificate, then we must have died.
That after birth, the placenta is
yes, we're going to talk about that. Yes, carry on, Alan. Go on then. I'll let you run now.
That's what's dead, lost at sea, is the placenta, because you didn't claim it, you left it, so it's lost and it's dead. And they made a corporation out of it now and attached it to you.
Well, that's crazy, because once the baby's born, you don't need the placenta.
It was cut.
Yeah, but after the baby's been born, it's redundant.
Right. But see, now you're cut and you're not whole.
But you can't go around with a baby attached to you, can you?
No. But it's supposed to fall off on its own.
Oh, right, okay. And they cut it, which isn't so good.
They cut it.
Yeah.
Cut, yeah. And what that means is that when it's cut, you're not whole. And like Jesus says in the gospel, that if you're whole, you don't need a physician or a minister. You don't need saving. But since you've been cut and you're lost at sea, considered dead, now you need salvaging. That's what the judge does in court, is salvages you into their beast system that keeps you enslaved to the system that they create.
Sorry. My dog's eating all the cat food. Sorry, carry on, Alan. Sorry, carry on. The dog was eating all the cat food. Sorry about that. I know something completely different, but carry on. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Carry on.
So it's all an illusion. That's this Justinian deception is what it's called, by Emperor Justinian, and it's from Rome. That's why they use the all caps. It's called legal fiction, legalese language. It's all capitalized. But they removed the hyphen, and so now it's a deception, and that's a crime.
Well, everything seems to be against us, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's what I see.
It's.
We don't. The really sad bit is we don't even. I mean, obviously we're a little bit, tiny bit more aware. But you struggled trying to change anything when you had to go. But we don't even really understand what we're in.
No. Because of the language, and it looks like English, but the words and terms being used have different meanings than what we're taught in school, because we're not taught legalese in school. We're not taught about that language and what the words mean in that language.
No, and like I did one. I mean, do you know what? YouTube have taken off. It had David Giamici. It had oh my god, I can't remember his name now. We were doing etymology, and they deemed that to break YouTube rules and took that one off. It's a hangout from about 5 years ago, and they deemed it to break everything. It's just talking about etymology, about how to educate yourself. But in that, one of the words was psychotherapist, means the rapist. So we just don't understand the words we're using.
Right. Yeah, psychotherapist is psycho the therapist.
Or the rapist, yeah. But we're using words that, like for instance, when we say hello, I mean, to us it is hi there, how are you? Or it's one word explaining a few things, but really what you're saying is hell.
The same with morning.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, morning. Yeah, you're mourning someone. Yeah. So you go say, I can't say good morning. I can't say hello, hi. You have to find another word you can use, but you just don't realise the words you're using.
Right.
But that's crazy, isn't it? Because we haven't found this out when we were 5 or 10 or taught this. We found it out, all these things, and realised as we've got a lot older.
Right.
Yeah.
Total witchcraft language.
Yeah, but when we talk to each other, we know what we mean, don't we? We're not being witches with, well, maybe we are being witches with each other, but it's very hard to get away from, because that's what we've been taught.
Mm-hmm.
But then you find out, like we just did at the beginning of the video, that Jesus in Spanish is Jesus. So we don't even know all the things we're saying, really.
No. That's because there's 2 languages that look identical, and they have different meanings to the words. That's why you need a lawyer in courtroom to interpret. And the judge and the DA is a corporation, and they can't deal with the living. They can only deal with the corporation. So that's why they have us as a corporation.
It's so incredible, because if someone there makes one tiny mistake, like maybe puts a capital letter or a comma, you could be going from a couple of weeks to many years in prison.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's all in that when they're doing it, they know what it all is. We don't. They know exactly what they're doing. One tiny little mistake, and you could be in prison for years when actually you should have been there for a couple of weeks. I mean, that's all crazy in itself, isn't it, when you think about what we're using?
Well, if there ain't no third party, that's no injured party, there's no crime. If there's no theft, no damages, there's no crime.
Yeah.
So if they put you in jail, that's kidnapping, because then now you're going to have to pay a ransom to get out.
Yeah. That's what happened on that car thing when they wanted to arrest someone and they didn't have a license, but she was a common law solicitor, so she said it all differently. And he said, but she was going, oh yes, you can do that, yes, you can do that to the police officer. She said, but I will just tell you this, that if you hold him, then basically we're going to re-sue you with statutory rape.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, this police officer didn't know what to say. I'll have to go and speak to my senior before I come back to you. And we don't know what happened because it's just a video that was put out. But it was quite interesting watching the police officer squirming for a change.
Yeah, that's why the police want your ID. They want your name. They want your birth date. They want you to acknowledge that you are that legal fiction, because their job is to get you in the courtroom.
When you think about it, I mean, I suppose we couldn't necessarily keep roaming the world maybe without some kind of paperwork, but when you look at it and you realise that at anywhere someone can call that for that paperwork, then we're just prisoners.
Yeah.
Because they want to keep a watch on everything that you're doing. They want to know exactly where everybody is. But we already know that, I'm not going to say names, Alan, but somebody went missing in Alan's life. He called up 2 police areas in different counties saying that this person didn't know what happened to them. So that's 1 county, 1 police officer, the next county, another police officer, and they never got back to you, did they?
Nope.
So how can they say that they've got all these things in place and everything's happening when they can't even find this one person a few miles away from each police station from each other? Neither one of them's come back to Alan.
Right.
So that's the big world that's looking after everybody and thinks that everybody can't move or anything like that. So it's a bit crazy when it doesn't work, does it? Their system, it's broken anyway. they threaten us with it all, but we should realise that it's never going to happen. It's just threats, because they could never implement the threats on us.
Right.
Something like that.
And like you say, the words we're using, that's why they give us the cell phone, because we're in a cell. And now they can keep tabs on us.
Yeah, once you're on the phone, you're in a prison, because, you know, I mean, maybe it has stopped people being more violent to others. You know, they're not giving other people eye contact and going, get out of the way. But when you get on a train and everybody's got their face down on their phones, maybe it gives them something to do. They're not lonely then. If you know yourself, you don't have to have your phone on. You can just sit there in peace. But everybody's on their phones all the time. Yeah, on the cell. In the cell.
Yeah.
Crazy, that one, Alan. So I never thought of that. On the little black screens.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want me to play a bit more of the video, or do you want to talk a bit more?
I don't care.
All right, we'll play a little bit more because it just refreshes Alan's memory. Right, Alan, carry on.
Well, he's talking about fertilization and what's that word when
Conception.
you're born? Conception, yeah. See, they want you to acknowledge that at conception you were born and that's your birth date, but that's the legal fiction, and you were created at fertilization 9 months prior, and that's when he's talking about you got 23 chromosomes from your mother and 23 from your father, which gave you 46, and now and it all comes from divine divinity. You're a god. You were created by your mother and father, and so you're a god, just like Jesus said in the scriptures, that the scripture says that ye are gods, and you're all divine from divinity.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you, Alan. Should we just play a bit more then? Hang on, because we're just refreshing, aren't we? Refreshing the memory. Another interesting part on this is that he talks about the placenta, doesn't he, Alan? And what it means. And obviously, Alan isn't necessarily agreeing with everything he says, because he'd like to know more, like I do. But what did he say about the placenta and about our conception of flat Earth and the whole thing? Explain it, Alan.
I'm not too understanding on what he meant on that, but he said that when you come out of the placenta, something about if you claim flat Earth. I'm not sure how he meant that. I'm kind of confused
what
on
he was
it.
sort of saying is that you believe the word flat Earth, but what you're really talking about is the flat placenta. And basically what they've done is, through the fiction we live in, they've labelled it to flat Earth, but really you're talking about a placenta, so they're mocking you.
Yeah.
Every time we say flat Earth, they're mocking us, because really it means something completely different.
Right.
But you won't, he didn't go too much into information about that, did he? And you want, in your mind, I want to know more about that. But what he's saying is, when you say flat Earth, you're actually talking about the placenta, which is flat.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not completely flat, is it?
No.
It's got like veins coming out of it, or arteries and things. So, any more to say on that one, Alan? Because you came to me with that, because you're a bit. Did you hear what he said? He said about flat Earth is the placenta.
And that's the afterbirth?
Yeah, well, it is, because you give it after the birth. You then have to that has to pass. Yeah, it can't stay in your body; it'll rot. Because it's dead then once you cut it.
Right.
I think it's quite incredible that all this happens. And he's talking about, you know, you're made up of 46 chromosomes. His dad has 46 chromosomes, but he only gave him 23, and his mum gave him 23 to make him.
Mhm.
I mean, when you think about it, it's quite incredible that we were ever conceived in the first place.
Mhm.
Don't you think? I mean, until something goes wrong, or like Mickey dropped dead, we're perfect.
Mhm.
And I also did a video myself, Alan. You know, everybody can disagree if they want, but obviously there are tall people, but obviously there's very small people. And sometimes when they're showing you the pictures of the tallest and the smallest might only be 6'5" or maybe 7 foot, but they stick you with a sort of 4'9" person, and that makes that person look even bigger. So we're not even sure what's big and small anymore. Nothing adds up, Alan.
No.
You know,
So do you think these skeletons that they've dug up are a hoax?
I don't know about them, because they, you know, supposedly there are these big skeletons. But then when you look at Google Maps, right, it's full of animals. And the other day when I was doing Caucasian, because it's really strange that Caucasia is a region below Russia, but on this certificate in the World Trade Fair 1905, they used countries. Everybody was a country, and it had Caucasia. But then they're saying that that's a region. But if you put an N on it, it becomes Caucasian. So I said, are we white Asians? Because it's about white people. But when you've got Asia in it, everything relates to Asia. So we must be white Asians. All of it's just crazy when you just suddenly look at it or try and work anything out. It just turns crazy. There's no ends of anything. Nothing ever adds up. It just is the way it is, and it's there, and it could be 500-600 years old, but you've got still no history for things, but it's there. And then somebody said that maybe what it is all these times are going on at the same time. Really, they've happened because they've just happened, and you're seeing it, but it's just that's why we see all these things in our life now.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. Oh, I don't know. It's all crazy. But I always find that when you look up this stuff, when you think, oh, that's interesting, like Jesus in Spanish is Jesus. But then you've got more questions at the end of it. It answers something, and then it gives you another 10 questions.
Which leads to more questions.
Yeah, but nobody really wants to talk about it, do they, Alan? Not really. You do.
No.
We do, but generally I don't think... Oh, sorry, the cat just... All right, stay away from her. The cat just got Floss, because Floss got too close. But Floss is going a bit blind nowadays, aren't you, silly old dog? Did she claw you? I told you to stay away from her. They get on quite well, really. They sit on the bed together, but if Floss goes up to her like Cam does, she's going to do that. She's not hissing. Yeah, she knows she hurt you. Anyway, sorry, carry on. It's an animal world in here now. We've got 1 dog, 3 cats. Carry on, sorry, Alan.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just find it all crazy. We're not very educated when it comes to it, are we?
No. It's like they're trying to hide the truth and give you some kind of an allegory story.
Yeah, it's a bit, because, like, I remember it was James. Well, no, David Demetrius said, when do you think your soul comes? But the thing is, until you breathe the breath of this air, you're not in this world. You're like an amphibian inside a womb. In fact, the baby's the perfect astronaut because it's floated around in suspension. So the baby is the astronaut. But then the moment it's born and it takes that breath, it's in this world. So surely the soul must come then. Because if it's not in this world, I just don't know about that one. It'll just... And then what was the other one? James, he said, basically a baby dies from that existence inside the womb to be born here. And that's true, isn't it? The life it had inside the womb dies so it can be a baby in this world. I never looked at it like that. I'm not saying, that's all super duper, but I just remember thinking, wow, I never really thought about that before. Yeah, because it's because we haven't thought before. That's why. But then once you start realising that things mean different things, it pushes you on and you want to find more and more information, don't you, Alan? That's what happens.
Mm-hmm.
But until you think, rather than just accepting everything, this is what happens. Oh, Mickey would have loved to have been here for this one. Are you here, Mickey? I'd love it if you were here, Mickey, with us. Anyway, yeah. So we don't even understand that now, but he doesn't explain overly about what the placenta is. He just says that, doesn't he? He doesn't go into detail. This video is 2 hours 41 minutes long, so he obviously talks about quite a lot of stuff.
A capsule.
A capsule.
A space suit. A ship.
They're always talking about being in the waters.
A vessel.
What we are, you mean?
Yeah. It's like the snake that shed its skin.
Hmm.
And I like the way he said earlier about evolved. We evolved from a tadpole to what we are, what we evolved in the vessel.
We don't know if that quite happened, because when you talk about the rib of Adam, you're actually talking about science there, which isn't something they say in the Bible, is it? Oh, we're talking about science here and the fact it's all to do with DNA and all that. So obviously they were far more advanced. So how do we know? But then who made the others, and then who made them? And it goes on, and you think, I just want to know where we're living, what we're on, and why we're here.
Well, I think if we could figure out what God is, where he came from.
I mean, he could just be a computer.
Right.
Or an AI.
But then what or who created that computer?
That's what I'm saying. It goes on and on. So who, if you have that, then who created that? So what was it, the chicken or the egg? And then who created the egg or the chicken?
Right.
I mean, it sounds like quite a lot of experiments before we were okay.
It's like the seed came before the tree, but where the seed came from, because the trees create the seeds.
I know, it's all a bit bananas, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's absolutely bananas when you think about it. It doesn't, in a way, it doesn't matter if you think you're a spinning ball floating through space or we're stationary. It's still, how did we all get here? How could all the galaxies be made if you think they're that big? How do you think they got there? What, they're just forming bits of rock, and over thousands of years they've turned into balls that are so big. Like, a lot of them are a lot bigger than Earth, supposedly. But actually they're not. They're much, much smaller. Much, much smaller in reality up there in the sky. But
we don't even know how big the Earth is.
No, but I have said that Bering Strait, between Alaska and America, there's not one soldier or ship that sails up and down there, but there's only 60 miles from America to Russia. So you would think, wouldn't you, instead of involving the whole world, that they would just kill each other off there. But Russia looks at land, and Alaska they can see land in the distance, which they're saying is Russia. I'm not saying they see it all the time, but they can see it at times. And so that must be that really they're both looking at extra land. So the extra land is not that far away. We just don't fly there.
Right.
Yeah. But nothing is what you think it is, and is it? So.
No.
I mean, I did like it with the first guy when he said all we've got to do is not eat and use their electric and stuff for about a week. And once they realise we're not, then we could turn everything around. But everybody would have to be in on that. Then we start sounding like we're on Mars, with Arnie, and they're starving the people of air. It's that kind of thing. But the crazy thing is, because you're watching it all, you know that when Arnie gets to Mars, all the baddies are on the television. That's the same as today.
Yeah, it's like all these videos, that people watch, and the people that are doing them, they're giving out some good information, maybe some good truths, but yet they're mixing it with some lies too, because they throw in the heliocentric model with the Palladians and the Anunnaki coming from another planet, and we know that's all hocus pocus lies, because the heliocentric model is the ball spinning theory. The Big Bang is a lie.
Yeah, well, as we're finding, most things are lies, aren't they, Alan? Even, that kind of... When I realise that there's just basically one church, that they're just spirals of the same church, and when you get christened, you're christened Catholic anyway, even if you think you belong to a different church. And all they did to do that was just... So, for instance, the Catholics believe, or the Roman Catholics believe, you get your sin when you come here, whereas the Calvinist Protestants believe the sin comes with you. So what they did was just alter where the sin happens for you, and you've made another church, but don't tell anybody it's the same church, just under another name, which is a bit like the Queen not owning Buckingham Palace, but the monarchy does. So instead of making all these different churches, it's just still one church. And, obviously, Mickey said it on a video, because I was saying this. I said, didn't they, Mickey? Because there's a church where Mickey lived, in Carlshulton, and it's a Protestant church. But when you walk in there, it doesn't feel Protestant. It feels Catholic. And when you look up on the internet about this church, it says it's a Protestant church in a new Catholic way. So there you go. And he told me I told the truth. I'd worked it out. And I was like, really? Because obviously not that many... Well, maybe my channel listens to me, but my family don't. So I'm going, there's just one church. And they're like, oh, she's lost it again. But he said, no, you're telling the truth. Mickey was there. He heard it. He said it on one of the videos. And as you know, they're the Romans.
What gets me is, they say I'm not Catholic, but yet they're still using the Catholic canon doctrines, the scriptures. They're still using that. They're still believing in the same stuff that the Catholic is putting out there.
I was a bit shocked to that. And do you know what Protestant means? A protesting Catholic. So I was brought up that the Protestant church was something completely different. No one ever said, oh, by the way, you're a protesting Catholic. So you're still a Catholic.
Yeah.
That's not how we've been brought up. So why is all this happening? Like, why are we taught that when actually it's something completely different? If only you know. But anyway, something's happened, because hardly anybody goes to church anymore. So that's why the television came in, I think. They just got everybody at home then. You didn't have to have a religion then, did you?
Well, there's still a lot of people that's going to church.
Nearly every church I've been to is empty.
I've got this friend of mine that was a Sunday school teacher all my life. He's like 20 years older than me. And, well, he believes in the ball spinning theory. When I told him about flat earth, he thought I was crazy. And I told him, well, what does your Bible say about, is it heliocentric or is it talk about geocentric? I mean, there's scripture that says that the earth sits on 4 pillars and can't be moved. But then he has nothing to say.
Yeah, because then he only wants to take a bit of the Bible.
Right.
I don't know if I could trust the book anyway. I don't mean it horribly to anybody. I mean, one article said 18, but another one said 67 books weren't in there. When you have to have half or 3/4 of the book not there, why would you be following just a quarter of a book? And you need the other books which have been taken out. And one of those is what's his name? Who does this?
Enoch.
Enoch, yeah, Enoch should be in there.
Jasher.
But again, he was quite tall, wasn't he? He was about 7 foot or something.
Mm-hmm.
But that didn't. I mean, honestly, I did one. I think we got to about 7 foot something. I mean, I just remember someone else saying, "But what about the size of some of the doors?" I can't explain that. Maybe they were for those big things that, like you said, the giant skeletons. Maybe they were for them. Maybe there wasn't so many of them. Maybe we couldn't live being that big in the end. But most people who are giants today, maybe who are 7 foot, 8 foot, they struggle so much with walking and everything.
Another interesting thing is when they talk about these fallen angels that made the Nephilim, or however you want to pronounce it, that the females had to cut their bellies to have the giants be born, because they were so big they wouldn't come out of the uterus. And I'm thinking, well, was all these giants males? I've never seen anything talk about any female giants.
Oh, yeah. No,
And were these fallen angels, were they all males? Because it only talks about these.
Or is it allegory? Don't forget, it's just trying to explain something, but nothing's quite real. It's a way of saying it to you to get you to understand something, a story.
So there never was no fallen angels.
Right. Okay.
Unless we're the fallen angels.
Maybe that's why we're here. This is purgatory. I mean, when that guy said that Adam was taken then because he was perfect and he'd done everything.
Maybe all of this is just a big hoax lie to get your mind thinking of this.
Well, yeah, because it sounds a bit like Muslim way, doesn't it? Because they believe the next life's the one you're going to. I don't understand sometimes why we have so many children in this life then, if you're going to the next life is the better one. But yeah, that's what they believe. It's almost the same thing when you think about it. The next life, that's heaven. It's the same thing as the Muslim one, really.
But then in the Bible too, it talks about heaven is just a state of mind. So, there's 300.
Well, I know this is crazy, and what it is it was a bit weird, really, because it happened quite a long time for me. I was pregnant with my daughter. And what it is it's just because, I don't know, that's that one day, when it was before Mickey died, but I was just thinking about things, and I thought, wow, when I've asked other people what their out-of-body experience was, or as they die, or they think they're dying, or they're told that they died but they didn't go through, they came back, they always see this light. And I had one of those experiences. I mean, I actually felt that where we came from, we levitated, and we were full of love, which wasn't here, but in this out-of-body thing I was having, I was on the ceiling looking at myself, and then I saw the light. But then suddenly this feeling came over me. There was something really evil standing there, and I couldn't see it, so I screamed, and then I found myself back in my bed.
You know how you see on TV where people are like...
What is that then? What I'm saying is, they say when people are dying, it's your brain doing things, and it makes you think maybe that there's a light. But I saw it. What was I? Nearly on a near-death experience there then, or what? But I don't think your mind makes you do that. That was just there.
Here the other night I was trying to go to sleep, and I seen this like ball of parasites, these like worms or whatever, and they're all swarming around together. So I don't know what I was seeing. I don't know if it's parasites that I was seeing inside me or what it was.
You said sometimes in the distance you see the light as well, don't you?
Well, I noticed, like, when I'm getting ready to fall asleep, there's like in the center of the screen, when I close my eyes, there's like a screen, a black screen, but I see all these dots, different colors, and they're flashing all over.
Oh.
Bright colors, different colors, all different colors. And it's like,
I know what that is, Alan. Those are those mushrooms.
No.
No. I don't really understand mine. If my experience was just like someone who has one of those near-death experiences, I had the same thing, but I must have, all I can think of is I must have, don't know, maybe I just stopped breathing for a minute or something. I don't know. I mean, we all hope there is another side. Like, I'm hoping that I will meet back up with Mickey.
Right.
But, I don't really feel him. I feel a buzzing in my ear, but I mean, it's nothing like having him here and giving me a cuddle and talking to me. It's nothing like it at all. I can't hear what he says. I just hear this buzzing going on in my head. But I pray that there is this other side. Because otherwise, when we die then.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just completely different of all this stuff, but I suppose we all want to know there is another side, don't we? And then other people will say, well, you're energy, and energy never dies. And then I have thought that maybe we do pass, and it's to another dimension. Because I just remember that guy in the, I suppose he was...
And the energy, you can't create it, so it's always been, so we've always been. So
yeah, because I felt that as a kid, that wherever we came from, we could levitate and stuff. And in my out-of-body experience, I was on the ceiling.
That's because before you were a spirit and you could fly.
Yeah, but the afterlife, in a way, and I was thinking what they did to Mickey with the autopsy, it's almost as if they're vampires, because if they're hovering around on the ceiling, etc., they're a bit vampire-like. I don't mean that horribly to the dead. I'm not insulting the dead. I'm just saying they are vampire-like.
Or ghostly.
Well, I don't see them. Like, I don't... maybe I just want to see Mickey so much. Maybe someone said it takes weeks when they go over the other side. 1 minute he was here in a shock, then he's there. But if you're a spirit, why would you need to rest? Once you're there, you're something different. Oh, that was it. So this guy was talking about dimensions, and he said if you were a 1D person, you could only go backwards and forwards. Your life is quite... But then he said a 3D apple comes in. But because it's not in his dimension, he can't see it. He has a yearning in his stomach. He senses that someone's there, but he can't see it. And even if the apple lands on the ground, only the points where the apple touches the ground he'll see, but he won't see the apple. And I thought, wow, that doesn't half sound like spirit world. Like, oh, they've gone to heaven, so they've gone to another dimension. So it means that they could be here and see us, but we can't see them. But it's still horrible, isn't it, when dying is so final.
Funny thing to me is like, Adam had no mother. So why did Jesus have to come from Mary? Why couldn't God create his son the same way he created Adam?
Because supposedly, or what they've tried to make everybody believe, is there was nothing before the Bible. So Adam comes along. Most people believe he's the first man when he wasn't, because he was already married. He already had children with Lilith. So it's just the way they're explaining it, isn't it? So Jesus could then have a mother because he comes along later. But then, obviously Joseph wasn't his father. So, and Joseph, I don't know if it was you again. Joseph was really old. He was about 80 when he married Mary. I don't remember that one either. Obviously he's a bit older than Mary, but they never put him down as 80.
No.
Like, he was a lot older.
I was thinking he was probably 30 or 40.
Ah, he'd already got grandchildren. That's crazy, isn't it? Because, with Adam, they make him look young. But
And what's this story about Thomas supposed to be Jesus' twin?
Oh, I've never heard of that one before, Alan.
Haven't you?
No.
Yeah, they say that Thomas was his twin.
Wow.
But there's no saying about that when Jesus was born that he had a twin either. But yet in the Gospels it talks that Thomas was his twin.
I had one as well. It was Richard Burke. He sent me a video about 2 or 3 years ago now, saying that when Jesus was a child, the video was about he killed that person and then brought them back to life. And because he'd done that, then basically Jesus got sent away, and he went away with a monk. And he went off for years, and then he came back when he was, that age, 33, whatever it was, whatever old he was when he came back, he was in his 30s.
Supposedly gone to Egypt.
So he had to go away and whatever, but he had... That's the powers he had, and as a child he did the wrong thing. And
they say also that Jesus was thought, the Egyptian god.
Right.
Thoth.
Thoth. Yeah, Thoth. Yeah. I don't know. When I was younger, I thought, because obviously we don't even know what Jesus is. Everybody talks about the Jesus consciousness, but a medium, it was a book called Winds of Change. They said Jesus came here to teach us to be more like him. So we're supposed to be like him, but churches keep you away from him. So that's that one. And the other one is, if he was just a human like you and me, but he had the powers. He was obviously an empath. He was into astrology, and he was just into it all, and he had an insight. But then there's loads of Jesus in the end, isn't there? There's loads of characters that could have been him, and his name was Zeus anyway, so you need to look up the stories about Zeus, because that's Jesus.
Same with
but we wouldn't treat him any... Say Jesus came along now, same sort of story, NASA would have him imprisoned. You know, in the time of this book, we've not learnt anything, except probably to be narcissists.
What's going to happen to the Pope when the Antichrist shows up? Then the Pope can't be standing in for Jesus no more, can he?
Well, you wouldn't really want one of them, would you? Thank God they don't give me a piece of bread. Well, when you realise what's underneath the Vatican and stuff like that and what it's all about, this is why we can't go to the churches. Anyway, most of them aren't real, are they? They're superimposed into the footage. Remember I did that one on the Pope when he was at the window? He disappeared. No, he appeared. He appeared at the window, but he didn't walk to the window. He just appeared. So
and why did they stick that in there for, I wonder?
Because we're so stupid. None of us have noticed all these problems before, and then once you start noticing them, you can't help but notice them. Because they've been making television for us for years. I mean, my Ellie was trying to say, oh, shut up, Mum, or you're going to have to leave. But I was looking at Celebrity Get Me Out of Here in Australia. They were watching it downstairs. And I said, there's two people, Ant and Dec. Ant. I think Ant's the smaller one. And I can't remember which way round it is, but the smaller one, he was taller than the other one. And they said, oh, that's because he's on a slope. The bit they're standing on is sloped. And in the next shot, I said, look, he's half the size of him. And I'm thinking, they're on green screens. None of it's real. It's all just made in a studio. I'm not saying maybe some of the things they don't go outside and maybe they're not in Australia, but most of it's just got green screens around it. And you think that's supposed to be live in Australia. It's all just, and then when you realise, I mean, I made a video that's waiting to go out to show you when they started to make all these things. So in our history, they've only just made photography and films, and within a couple of years, they're doing all these other things, which is ridiculous. I reckon it was the League of Gentlemen ones, before the Victorians, the ones that had the pneumatic trains. They were the ones that did it, and we don't know how long that period was. They're the ones that put the train tracks in, the original ones. They had the money. But that's a different time, isn't it? Because we're talking about fallen angels, Isis, Zeus, Jesus, High Zeus.
Serapis, Horus.
Yeah.
Krishna. There was 16 of them before Jesus, dying and rising saviors.
We haven't had anybody recently, though, have we?
No.
No. Is there anything else you want to say on this subject, Alan? Because obviously I've got to put some of the video, little bits of the video in and tweak it a bit. We've been going for over an hour now. Is there anything else you want to add? Because obviously we haven't... I'm going to put a few bits of this video in so you get an idea, and that's the name of the video there. But you haven't talked about that, about the social contract. The feto-maternal bundle of rights is a social contract. You got anything to say on that bit? Because you got into all that, didn't you? Legal fiction and, you know, didn't you?
Yeah.
The law. What does that mean to you when you see those words?
Very. To me, it's like different means different things. You're dealing with.
Because basically, when Alan was doing something, what it is he wasn't going to court for law. You were going to court for a few full stops, commas, and that's what you're really going to court for. They don't really discuss law in court, do they?
No. No, because I asked her, the lady judge, about this language, and she said she wasn't going there. She wasn't going to talk about it.
I only know about the, you know, if you put a what, you know, like if you've got an S at the end of the word, at the end of the word, that's the end of that. You cannot do anything in law about that. That's been done, dusted. But when words don't have S's in front, you can get it legally changed or whatever. And then once it has an S in front, that's it. It's done. But it's all crazy. And you know, when you think about it, with a judge in a dock, and you've got to go and stand, you know, basically in a ship. Why would you have that when we're on land?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you pretend you're boarding a ship docked to go to court? Why would you be doing that when we're on land?
Because we all answer to the legal fiction, and we've joined a citizenship on a pirate ship.
Because do you know what? Remember
our body is a ship, a vessel.
We've done this bit as well, Alan. Like, if you actually, go to court and you ask the judge what their oath is, 9 times out of 10, they shouldn't be sitting in the court that they're sitting in. It means that nearly everybody can have their sentence overturned.
Right.
And they can have a retrial because they've stuck the wrong judges to the courts.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, it'll be the wrong judge in the wrong court sitting. It's true, isn't it, Alan?
Yeah. They're not judges either. They're administrators, magistrates.
Everything is so ridiculous. You can see why they're not doing anything about law, because it's all just ridiculous. It's the commas and the dots and the S's and things you're looking for. It's pathetic.
See, they use adverb wording, like any police report or whatever. They're using verb wording and adverb wording.
So never go, yes I am, yes I am. But I mean, if it happens to you, it's obviously quite difficult to do, isn't it? When these people are attacking you saying your name is, and you have to say, well, I'm Karen. You know, it just looks like you're being really difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And really, they've put you in this system, and it is a prison. It's still a prison system, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, the language they're using in a courtroom is they're using a forked tongue, because they're mixing 2 languages and passing it off as one. And when they use that legalese language, it's from Babylon, and it's all Babel because they've taken the hyphen out.
And it's all to mask who we are, where we are, and what we live on.
Uh-huh.
Well, it is though, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Instead of talking about these things and being proud to be scientifically right, they have to make all the pretend stuff through NASA. And pretend the astronauts are out there, even though you can see one of them's paused, which means it wasn't live and it's not real, and they've been superimposed together. That's what we're living in, a lie.
Right? It's all an illusion.
It's all an illusion. Yeah.
It's witchcraft. It's magic, because it says in chapter 1 of Genesis, it's Elohim, just God, and then in chapter 2 comes Lord God, and that's supposed to be the YHWH, Jehovah, Lord God, Lord Baal, and that goes all the way back to the Anunnaki, the cuneiform symbolism, which is the fallen angels, the Anunnaki or the fallen angels.
We don't have wings here, do we? We're
No.
definitely fallen then.
I was told that our lungs.
And then you're saying, how many times do you see a male angel?
When do you ever see a female angel?
Sorry, that's what I mean. When an angel's female, sorry, I meant to say that. Yeah. And then why would the angels want to mate then suddenly?
They wanted their children.
But even if that's true, say we all come from that, it's not our fault. We're born innocent when we come here.
Mm-hmm.
Until you find out you've got all these karmic things from your past lives. But I've never heard a medium say anybody comes back. Never. They're always, when they contact people. I'm not saying they're always there. So say you want your mum and your dad, maybe only your dad comes or an uncle comes, but they're always in spirit world.
Mm-hmm.
Medium never tells you any spirits come back. So I don't really understand all that either.
So they don't believe in reincarnation?
They just never say they reincarnate. They don't say they don't believe in it. They just say they just never tell you, oh, your dad now is your grandson. They never seem to reincarnate.
And I was thinking, when Jesus says, I and the Father are one, and so now Jesus, what they say, well, Jesus is God. God became Jesus.
But we're God as well. That first guy says that there was no God. We made God.
And so I'm thinking, well,
if that's the case, how could the world be here if we made God?
Right.
Somebody had to make here. This doesn't just...
Maybe we were the ones that made everything. And when we came here now, we want to divert it and give it to something else, some imaginary thing that don't exist. A fiction.
Well, that's what I was going to... when I said we saw animals on if you get Google Maps out, when I was doing that Caucasia bit, I suddenly realised there was an animal on my screen. I said, first of all, it's an elephant, and then I was looking at it again. I thought, no, it's not. It's a rhinoceros. Why would you see these things in Google Maps? See these animals? They're huge.
Well, sometimes when
like
I look
an
at
elephant is most of Africa with a bull.
Like some of these continents that I look at, some of them look like a human skull.
Yeah, often they look like bits of people.
Yeah.
But they're not small. I mean, it's almost like they'd be the size of England, sort of thing.
Well, the Bible says that these giants were 3 miles tall.
That's hard to believe, though, isn't it? Down here must be absolutely massive, then. Or maybe they trod on it and half of it sunk.
How could they eat?
What could they eat to fulfill? How big were the animals then?
Right.
That's what I mean. You're just I mean, it is good to talk about these things, but at the end of it, you're just left with another set of questions. It goes on, and I still want to know who we are, where we are, and what we live on.
Where we came from.
Because we're not floating through space. And then, even if we're stationary, what's around us? What, we're just stuck? It's a bit like, say you were a spirit, you could be flying for hours and hours, and then suddenly, oh look, there's a sun. Oh look, there's a place. What, we just in the middle of nowhere? What are we in?
What's keeping the sun and the moon up in the sky, and what's making it move?
And what about the stories like, we did these videos where people were taking pictures for the sun, but in their pictures the sun only came to their feet. So in each picture the sun came to the people's feet, but it didn't go to the other person's feet. So that suggests that basically maybe we see our own sun. But that's crazy in itself, isn't it? What does that mean if this place is here but we all see our own sun? Which is what Jesus is linked to anyway. That's the talks with Santos we had, that he was he was the sun. Years ago we had quite a few hangouts with Santos Bonacci. And that's what Jesus was linked to. But if you look at the Bible, it's a journey of yourself. And the crucifixion is how you go from your shoulders to your brain. And that doesn't mean what you think it means.
No.
So that's all crazy in itself. It's like, yeah, it's all crazy. Anything else you want to add, Alan?
No.
Obviously, you like looking these things up, don't you?
Yeah.
Because you keep sending them to me. What, like with these videos that you send, is it just because you find them interesting? You don't really have the answers either. You just find them interesting to watch.
Mhm.
Because you're not a religious man, are you?
No.
No.
Used to be.
Well, we all used to be something. We all used to be in some church or something. Maybe not today's children, but probably us. We were still in something, christened and everything. Yeah, well, I've enjoyed that, Alan, because there's a few things. Like I say, I'm going to take little bits of the video out. When we've watched this, those bits will be in the video. We're going to add a few bits in. Of course, I'll send you... we'll have it as a hangout, and I'll send you the link.
Okay.
But anything else you want to add? Anything that isn't in there that you want to talk about?
I can't think of anything right now.
No. All right. Well, thank you very much for sending me those.
Okay.
It's been very interesting, Alan.
Yeah.
And thank you, chat room. Thank you, Alan. And we'll speak soon. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you, Karen.
Oh no, thank you, my darling. So we're coming up to the end of the video now. Alan just wanted to talk again about this guy and about the, what was it again? The RNA?
RNA.
Yeah. Go on then.
It wasn't a rib that was taken from Adam. It was the adding of RNA to DNA so that the fallen angels could procreate.
That would make sense because I told you there used to be no blonde-haired people and now there is. So where did they come from?
Right.
So that's another race of people, isn't it? Introduced in, and Hitler seemed to do that, didn't he? By the Aryan race. And that's about the time they got here.
Yeah.
And don't forget, we had all the films in the 60s, didn't we, with the blonde children that were taking over. Do you remember that?
Uh-huh.
Do you remember that horror movie? And the children took over. They were
all those blonde children with
the
glowing
blonde
eyes.
children, yeah. Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the movie though.
No, but that's crazy because I just couldn't see how we in the sort of, well, what they're saying is end of Victorian cowboy days in America. There's no blonde-haired people, and then by the 1940s we've got blonde-haired people. So maybe it's the same kind of thing. So what do you think that meant? So they would change it. Oh yeah, you said also they put Adam to sleep and he never gone. What was that bit?
He was never woken up.
So what does that mean then? That sounds like euthanasia or something.
He's still under hypnosis or sleep.
Why would you put him to sleep? Is that killing him?
I don't know.
Because they said that he has to die because he was perfect and he needed to go. But then
Okay.
he wasn't perfect because that's why he went, wasn't he? I just don't understand how Eve stays when she's going, I've eaten an apple, do you want some? And then he's the one that gets chucked out and Eve's the one that stays. I thought it was the other way round. Well, I thought they were both cast out, actually.
Maybe Eve was government and Adam, put to sleep became the legal fiction dead entity. And now he has to leave.
Right. Well, Alan, I've very much enjoyed doing this video. Some quite interesting things here. Some things I think, wow, and other things I'm not sure. You know, like Eve, the whole thing about Eve and she stayed in the garden. But they don't even talk about Lilith. So it's a bit crazy that so much is left out and other stuff's put in. And stuff. Do you know what I mean or not? I just find it all a bit... It's all confusing, isn't it?
Right.
Especially if you're trying to find the truth.
Right?
Yeah. So is there anything you want to add at the end of this video?
No.
You said quite a lot today, Alan. Didn't you, on your own channel, put his whole video out?
Not this one.
A different one?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, okay. Thank you so much for this hangout, Alan, and the video will go out very shortly. So thank you very much, and thank you very much, everybody in the chat room, and hopefully it's made you think about things.
Thank you, lovely Karen.
Oh, no, thank you, lovely Alan. Thank you, my darling. And chat room.